Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And welcome to DCTV Recap, the show where we recap Supergirl and Legends of Tomorrow, and none of the other DC TV shows because they're not in the CW yet. When Black Lightning comes, we're going to have to add that to the show.
Yeah.
But that'll complicate things, and we'll get to that. Speaking of complicating things, last week we ran a contest because if you don't know, Ashley and I have a comic book that is going to be hitting stores December 6th. It's called Jupiter Jet. It's Kim Possible meets the Rocketeer, about a 16-year-old little girl and her little brother fighting people with ray guns and robots and possibly aliens in 1935. And we ran a contest because we need you to go to your local comic book shop right now and pre-order the title. And Wildbeard Reviews won the contest because he pre-ordered Jupiter Jet in his local comic book shop. He took a picture, look at how awesome he looks, and he wins All-Star Batman.
Woo!
So Wildbeard Reviews, send me a message through YouTube and I'll send that off to you. But he's not the only awesome person that ordered our comic book.
What?
David Jones also pre-ordered his comic book of Jupiter Jet and took a little picture of his comic book shop. And David, you were the second person to enter. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you this copy of Harley Quinn Volume 1. So please message me through YouTube and I'll get that to you. And guess what, Ashley?
What?
Jupiter Jet has appeared in previews. Issue 2 has appeared in previews.
Yes, it has.
So we're going to run the contest again.
What?
So go to your local comic shop, and order Jupiter Jet issue 1 or 2. Take a picture with issue 1 or 2 in previews in your local comic book shop. It'll help promote your comic book shop. And if you do that, I will pick one person by next week's DCTV Recap, and you're going to win the the limited edition gift set of Batman and Harley Quinn with a little Harley Quinn figure inside. So go do that. Go support our comic book. We think you'll really enjoy it as the prize pack falls over. Don't worry, it'll only be slightly damaged. But we think you'll enjoy our comic book, and we want to give you a prize. So let's go straight. Enough of this comic book stuff. Let's go straight into Supergirl.
Supergirl Season 3, Episode 4, The Faithful. Kara investigates a secretive new group whose leader, Thomas Coville, has a mysterious connection to Supergirl. Meanwhile, Samantha feels like she's letting Ruby down, and John confesses an old secret.
All right, so let's talk about the good, the bad, and then we're going to go to the rating and the prediction. First off, I really liked the nice reveal when we find out that the plane crash that happened at the very beginning was the plane crash from the pilot. I thought that was such a neat little twist. I thought it was really cool. We get to see it from his reveal and get to see outside the window because I really was like, oh, what is going on here?
And then Alex is suddenly
on the plane.
Alex
on the plane. I was like, what? I really like them bringing that back. What'd you think?
I really liked that. I loved the entire framing device of this episode. I thought this episode was a really smart and intelligent use of the character and exploration of what she means in universe. And I also thought it was interesting because when the show first premiered, when it was on CBS, there was a cult of Supergirl. Like, people fell in love with this character and she resonated on a scale that she hasn't before. And I thought that meta parallel was really interesting to see explored in universe.
What else did you like from this episode?
I liked the reveal that the cult of Rao was the cult of Supergirl because initially when the symbol popped up, you recognized it before anyone in the show told us what it was. I wasn't sure if I was going to be on board with a human Rowian religion.
It's a nice little tie into the comic book series 52, where they had a cult of Superman.
Yeah.
And they actually had the upside down Superman symbol. But in this, they used the Rao symbol that Brian Hitch, I believe, used in his latest JLA run, which is really cool. I liked everything with the Cult of Rao. I really did.
I thought the scene where they were all giving their speeches was actually really moving. And that is a scene that we've seen in a number, kind of repeated in a number of different shows. Could have been really, really cheesy, but Mr. Lowe was really
Chad
great.
Lowe.
Not
I
Rob
believe his
Lowe.
character's name was Coville.
Thomas Coville, yeah. And then I thought the young girl was really good, too. And I thought when Kara said, I remember all of them, that was very super.
It was really good, especially when it cut to we get a nice little scene of Erica Durance again saying the prayer.
Yeah.
The Kryptonian prayer. And to be honest with you, I really loved that a lot. And you were right, Chad Lowe was so good in this episode. And usually our little one-off Superman villains aren't great. And to be honest with you, I've seen Chad Lowe in other stuff, and I never thought that he was too impressive. But in this episode, I really thought he did a good job of playing the line between crazy and emotive.
Yes.
The girl falling off the roof and the crying was amazing. Like I said, like you talked about that earlier. And I love that when Supergirl walked into the Cult of Rao and confronted Chad Lowe, he knew she was Supergirl.
Did you love that?
I did. I actually loved it because I thought they picked a really interesting way where she was confronting him about, being, she was Kara, and she was like, look, I'm a reporter, and you're doing bad things.
You're causing people to
I have glasses.
Self-martyr.
That's what she was doing. And he literally did a little head turn and was like, are you trying to test my faith?
Yeah.
And I loved his line. It was some good dialogue. He's like, when you look into the eyes of a god, you don't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really did, because it does bring up that line of where, if you look at her disguise, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to push that too hard because, again, it is a very flimsy disguise. How Lena Luthor hasn't spotted it, I'll never know. But there you go. I'll give you that. But the idea that these followers are so devout, that they've looked at Supergirl so much that they've, of course, have figured it out. He also, of course, has this giant Kryptonian artifact in the back. I can't remember the name of the Archidrome or whatever. That is another little Supergirl the movie Easter egg.
Oh, yeah, it was like a hedron.
Yes, that was their power source in that movie. It is that really, really bad movie. What else did you like from this episode?
I liked the scene a little previous to the identity reveal, because I didn't like the identity reveal.
Get out of here.
Where, like I mentioned, the characters are trying to self-martyr. Like the idea that that's something from religious texts that we read a lot about.
The guy just staying on the roof as the building's on fire.
Yeah. And he's like, I believe that Supergirl will save me. And in a world where, we live in a religious society, but they're maybe not as palpable as a character like Supergirl is for those characters. I thought that was interesting, and I appreciated Kara's reaction to it being very negative. I thought that was appropriate.
I really like Kara missing the teachings of Rao. I really like that aspect, especially when she's like, because she, again, remembers Krypton. We've talked about this, and I like the beats where she remembers Krypton. I also thought that Jimmy Olsen, McCad Brooks, got his best scene in the entire series in this episode when he tells the story of when he first met Superman.
Yeah.
And how he fell off the bridge, and he was like, Superman rescued me, and he was like, she can't figure it out. She's like, I don't get why people look at me as a god. And Jimmy's like, when Superman caught me, it's like somebody answered my prayers.
Yeah, I actually thought the framing of that was really nice.
Yeah, I really thought that was really great. And I'll be honest with you, I love that this episode is exploring this issue. And actually, it is an issue that is usually way more complex than anything Supergirl or any of the CW shows ever deals with. And I think that's the reason why it elevated this episode so much.
I would agree, and I feel like it was building on a lot of the themes that was laid down last episode with the Martian episode.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Even though the context is very different.
Anything else you like from this episode?
I liked all of it. It was great.
I really liked Alex's I Want to Be a Mom speech.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was lovely.
And I thought Kyler Lee gave a great performance in that, crying in the hallway.
Because she's a mom.
Yep. And then we see Sam at the very end. She's covered with Kryptonian symbols, rain.
That was cool.
And those are still the Kryptonian symbols that were introduced in Smallville that are used in the comic books. Those are actually a real language. They actually type out. They have real, like, one of them means A, one of them means B, whatever, da-da-da-da. All right, so let's move into the bad. The soccer game scene.
All the rain, all her
daughter.
All the Ruby stuff. And they have not figured out yet, as they seem to be figuring out with William on Arrow. Ruby's like 13 or 14 years old, and they still write her as if she's 4 or 5, and the actress is not very good. So it makes her terrible. And then Lena's got this scene with her where she's like, nah, like she's gonna see that you're a badass, and you're like raising a little badass, and the subtext of that scene is good, and it's this sort of feminist bent that Supergirl has that's very positive about it, but, like, Ruby sucks.
Yeah.
So who cares?
I brought up this scene of that the reason why I dislike Ruby is because Ruby is hanging in her office in one point, and Sam is getting called away because something broke down with the merger.
Yeah.
And Ruby's like, I don't know, it looks like she's reading a book or playing with toys. I can't really remember what she's doing.
She's doing homework, I think.
And she just goes, Mom.
I don't want you to go.
I don't know, Mom. I was just sitting here in your office. Don't need me. And she's like, and her mom is very calm. Like, her second sentence is like, Ruby, I'll be back. I got to deal with this.
Yeah.
And she still goes, but Mom. And again, it's, yeah, you're right. It's this thing where she's 13.
Yeah.
Like,
send her home.
yeah, like,
go get a coffee.
ground her ass. Like, this kid is like so badly behaved.
She's doing French homework, and there's one point where Sam says, like, tell me what you learned, and she says a line that is supposed to be French, and as someone who speaks, I have no idea what she said.
Wow.
And look, I'm not assuming that you hired someone for one line, but your dialect coach could have worked with him a little bit more.
At least use Babelfish. Come on. Come on.
Don't use Babelfish.
But basically my biggest problem with this is that I don't want to watch the CEO millionaire mom show.
Yeah.
This is the second, I mean, well, we didn't really see her last week, but this is the second episode for me that, like, the down points were all the Ruby Rain points. I just don't care.
And Sam is good. Sam is a good actor, the woman playing that part. We don't need this device, except in my predictions, I'll tell you why Ruby exists.
Oh, great. Also, I wish Chad Lowe's character hadn't turned evil at the end or hadn't decided to blow up the stadium.
I agree. I think it's really forced.
Yeah.
But this is the archetype that we work within. But I do hope he comes back.
I do too. And the last scene with we got a very Henry Allen type moment. So I was like, but yeah, I thought the climax of the episode dropped the episode for me because I think it would have been stronger if it had maybe been one of his disciples, and not specifically him. Being him, it kind of knocked the episode down for me because I was like, oh man, this would be a stronger moral argument if if he was good all the way through.
Should have been the girl. Should have been the blonde girl.
Yeah. Of course. So at the end when they're dealing with the bomb, Martian Manhunter could have easily flown there, and there's a certain point where they can't figure out how to defuse it or whatever, and it's got kryptonite, and Martian Manhunter's like, I gotta go, and he's like, there's not enough time, and I'm just like, no, there would have been enough time if you would have gone like a minute earlier and 2 minutes earlier.
It's one of those things where, once again, he's so powerful, and he's he's the strongest actor on the show.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as a knock to anyone else, so we have to figure out a way to sort of like kick him off to the side.
And then also, finally, man, I didn't need to see Ruby sing.
And she's not even a good singer.
No, I didn't. I don't want Ruby on the show.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't want Ruby on the show. All right, let's go straight into the ratings. Ashley, based on a scale of 1 to 5 Supergirl Shield, what do you give The Faithful, I believe?
I thought The Faithful, yes, was a really great episode of Supergirl, and it showed a way that you can elevate this kind of storytelling by tackling complex themes within the superhero framework. And I think this is where the show really, really excels. It would have been perfect if Ruby didn't exist, so I'm going to give it 4. I thought this was tremendous. And if continuing the momentum from last episode, this is what's special about Supergirl. Nice. How about you? What are you going to give The Faithful?
I thought this episode, because I know about the cult of Superman, this cult of Supergirl, and to be honest with you, it's a storyline that doesn't really even work in the comic books that well. It's kind of becomes really forced. But I thought this episode was really balanced and really good and gave us a strong moral story with strong acting, and Chad Lowe as the guest star, I thought, killed it. I would give this a 4 out of 5. Again, the Ruby stuff is the only stuff that knocks it. The Rain stuff is the only stuff that knocks us down. Take that stuff out. This is a perfect episode of Supergirl. And I'm really excited because I'm hoping that this means that Supergirl is going to beat that 3rd season streak because we are 2 episodes in a row now that rock. All right, let's go straight into the predictions based on this episode. Ashley, what do you think is going to come and happen in Supergirl?
So, Ruby, right? She's a nightmare, right?
Is she Rain?
Well,
she's the real Rain.
Well, her
Ruby.
mom's going to be Rain, which means she's probably going to die or be in prison for a long time. They released a
costume picture of Rain, by the way, too.
And Alex super wants to be a mom, right?
Yeah.
So I think that something's going to happen with Sam, obviously, where she's going to be taken off the board in a permanent way. And I think Alex is going to wind up adopting Ruby, and we're never going to get rid of her.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then she'll probably become a superhero in 2 more seasons. So, Jason, what do you think is going to happen in Supergirl?
I call her Wine Girl.
Yeah. she whines and she drinks wine.
All right, so at the end of this episode, we got a little Easter eggy thing, right? You know, we saw a little something down in the earth, a little shippy thing. I calling it right now. That's a Legion ship. And I think that before the crossover, we are going to see the Legion of Superheroes. I think Mon-El is going to come back from the future with 3 other Legionnaires. I think it's going to be the 3 founding members. I think it's going to be Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, and Saturn Girl, because they've already cast Saturn Girl. And I think they're going to hit right before the crossover. I think this is confirmation that the Legion of Superheroes are here, and they're definitely happening.
You think they're not going to have Brainy on the team?
They could. That would be the one.
Because he's a very classic Supergirl boyfriend.
Sure. But I think they're going to do the classic 3 and Brainiac comes later, because I think they're going to do, knowing classic Supergirl fashion, I think Brainiac's going to be the one they're going to introduce later, so that we can get the whole episode where she thinks Brainiac's a bad guy and tries to fight him.
Please just don't bring back Mon-El and just do Brainiac 5 instead. That'd be great.
That would be a lot better show.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move straight into Legends.
Legends of Tomorrow, Season 3, Episode 4, Phone Home. The Legends go back to 1988 to save Ray when they realize he'll die because of their breaking time.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the rating and the prediction. First off, there was a really funny joke at the very beginning of this when we're trying to teach Zari about the Wave Rider. It's good and a bad. I like the idea that Ray, as a corporate-y guy, would try to introduce a team-building exercise. That is something that Ray would do. He has been a CEO before, and he is kind of a Dorcas. But a giant Dorcas. But a funny thing and a negative thing is that they reveal that there's only one bathroom in the Wave Rider. Are you kidding me?
I don't believe that for a second.
No way. No way.
No, absolutely not.
I really did like Zari figuring them all out. Zari being like, you don't want to be here. You're a nerd. You're an assassin.
You're drunk.
You're drunk. Yeah. You've been drinking since 9 a.m. I actually really like that a lot. The other thing I liked, but I was a little confused about, was when Ray disappeared from the time stream. So I wanted to be like, where were they? Where were they parked? Were they still in 2042? Or because they obviously, because usually when they're in the time vortex, as I'm gonna call it, I know that's a Doctor Who term.
Yeah.
They're protected by the changes.
Yeah, but then Jason, how do we get the joke of Mick falling flat on his back?
I actually really liked that joke.
So did I.
and it really looked like it was the Dominic Purcell falling.
I think it was, yeah.
Which was really cool. I actually thought that joke was really cool.
I also thought it was amazing that Ray was like, I'm gonna bribe someone to help me. It's gonna be Mick.
Yeah.
Like the path, that's the path of most resistance. He could have got anyone else to help them.
Well, he also said that he was like, 3 years ago, Mick and I weren't friends, and now we are best friends. You know?
Yeah, and Mick definitely still wants to kill him.
Yeah. What else did you like from this episode?
I liked a lot of this episode, actually. I liked learning about Ray's past, because I do think Ray's a giant Dorcas, and I don't like Ray. But I think the way they seated the child version of Ray was interesting and did feel truthful to the man that he grew up to be. So I think the whole arc of the episode was well crafted, even for a character that I maybe don't particularly care for.
Well, I was gonna say that I liked Little Ray. I actually really I believe that that's Ray Palmer. From the way he looks and the way they cast that kid and the way he acted, I was like, oh, I could totally see that kid growing up to be Brandon Routh. And I even liked the idea when they were following him around and he's stealing candy. Yeah. And especially when Roy's like, damn haircut, you got balls. You know.
Oh, and then him when he's stealing the candy and Rory's dressed up like the store-bought police outfit, not even a policeman, and he's leaning back and he raises his eyebrows at him, and Little Ray just turns and walks away.
Yeah, and he's like, I've never been more proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that, and to be honest with you, I actually kind of think that this might be Ray's best episode of Legends of Tomorrow ever, because he usually comes off as super silly. Now, he came off as super silly in this episode, but I think in this episode, they went out of their way to explain why he's super silly and explain,
you mean, with the bullies who he thinks are his friends?
Yes, exactly. And to be honest with you, because we had that consistently throughout the episode, he didn't come off as oh, that's weird. Because usually his silliness comes off in 1 or 2 liners.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, that doesn't fit. What are you talking about, Ray? But since you learn, oh, he's this super innocent, super I would say almost genuine person.
He's genuine, yeah.
He's super genuine. He's super positive. And you saw that throughout the whole entire episode. I thought it really helped temper Brandon Routh for most of this episode. And I really liked it. I do think that this might be his best episode. And him reminiscing about his house.
Yeah, that was
and
sweet.
his mom, I thought was really good and stuff like that. And the singing in the rain moment. And then even Rory being like, it's not as good as Fiddler in the Roof.
It's not.
It's not.
Fight me.
It's
not.
So I really liked those moments. What else did you like from this episode?
I liked the inclusion of the Dominators because when it was first revealed, I was like, cool, an alien. And you were like, oh, look, a Dominator. And I was like, oh, shit, of course it's a Dominator. I thought, what did he name him? I named him something. Yeah, I thought that was stupid.
Yeah.
But
he's a kid.
I thought that was stupid, but I thought the design of the little Dominator was both cute and I thought it was a good design of the character, and I thought the way they included the most dominatory elements was interesting. And I'm assuming we're going to dive into it. There's a lot of callbacks to the crossover in this episode.
Yeah.
And if we were going to have an episode that had to deal with the Dominators again, because I definitely didn't need to see more of the Dominators.
Sure.
I think Legends was the perfect show to do it, and I thought they did just enough tiebacks.
Yeah, and because we're going to assume that the horn-rimmed glasses guy, not the one from Heroes, but the guy in this episode, he's the same older agent guy that we see in the crossover.
Yes.
I'm going to assume that's the same guy. We don't get a confirmation of it, and none of the characters recognize him, so I don't know. And then also, I'm going to assume that Gumdrop is the Dominator that's super interested in Ray.
Yeah.
In the crossover. I'm going to assume that's the same one because you got to assume that Little Ray doesn't remember any. Well, you got to assume they eventually mind wipe Little Ray.
Yeah.
But there you go.
Because we do see him mind wiping the mom.
Yes.
So I would assume that he mind wiped himself.
But
as well.
after Halloween, probably. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
There were a lot of callbacks in this episode. Like when Zari follows Ray, his hideout is Camelot.
Yeah.
And remember last season he loved Camelot. I actually really I enjoyed that his little hideout was Camelot.
I thought it was super lame.
Then we had the agent singing the musical number, which I really enjoyed.
I thought that was super lame.
I really liked it. I'm sorry. You don't understand Legends, Ashley.
I think they have a horrific use of music.
And then the whole team going to trick or treat with Ray at the very end of the episode. We're gonna talk about a couple other things first before we move on to the bad. The whole team going to trick or treat with Ray, I thought was a really cool moment. And I thought it was a really nice moment. And I liked his little Ray, his little Adam costume. And Rory robbing the kids. Give me your wallets.
Well, because he says at the beginning, like stealing candy from a child. So
it's really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Let's talk about Martin Stein. They steal the Wave Rider to go talk to the baby. The baby is named Ronnie, which is a little weird since his daughter doesn't have any connection to Ronnie. But Ashley, you have a prediction.
I do.
We're going to save this prediction that specifically deals with this baby.
I'll tell you why he's named Ronnie.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that later.
Can we talk really quick about this whole thing? Because it's really sweet.
Define the whole thing.
This whole, we're going to steal the Wave Rider because my grandchild is being born. It's really sweet. I love Jax and Martin bonding because those actors do play really well together. Yeah. You have a time ship. You can literally go back at any time. You don't have to be there for the first one. Time is infinite.
We should say this for the bad if you're
complaining
about it.
Yeah.
So if this is a bad, let's say this for the bad. We're not in the bad yet.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a bad. So Ashley moved us straight into the bad without telling us. Yay. I agree with you. I had that down. I actually had more of a problem of they have a little shuttle.
Yeah.
And they have a ship. Just take the shuttle.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they took the ship, you were like, okay, one of the characters is going to be like, we need the Wave Rider, and we don't have it.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, and I brought that up actually while we were watching the episode. Like, yeah, they could jump. They don't have to rush to get there to beat Lisa to the hospital. They have a time ship.
It's very like, we have to figure out why the Doctor can't get to his TARDIS.
Yeah. I thought the CGI in the baby Dominator didn't look too good.
I don't think the CGI in either Dominator ever looked
I
really
thought the older
good.
Dominator looked better, but I think because they already had that model and it was at
Yeah.
night mostly.
I actually really liked the older Dominator's interactions with Sarah.
Yeah.
I thought those were really cool.
Zari at one point jumped over Ray's fence and suddenly was deep into the Vancouver woods, which I thought was really funny.
You laughed about that when we watched it.
Because it was such a hard cut. Because there's
I know it's not like that.
There's no way I believe that it's just like giant forest right by Ray's house. Because when they're on the streets, they're in a suburban neighborhood.
I also want to retract my support of Zari from last episode. I thought she continued to sound really bored and uninterested, even when the most interesting things were going on this episode. So I don't know if I'm on board with her character anymore.
I said as well. I said that Zari seemed really flat in this episode.
Yeah.
I also was not a huge fan of her costume at the end, and I don't know.
Oh, the pseudo. Yeah, no.
And it looks very 1970s ISIS.
She looks like She-Ra.
Yes. That's what I wrote down the note that I was like, it doesn't look as modern as everybody else's.
Yeah.
It looks very old school. So I don't know, that might not be your permanent costume. It might just be the Halloween one. I don't know. We'll find out next episode, I assume. But I was not a big fan of that episode. Another thing that I did not like was Jack, and Rory automatically jumping to the conclusion that Martin Stein is helping the Time Bureau.
Just because he has a secret room.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a logic leap. Jax, of all people, should be the one reining in assumptions like that because he knows Martin's a good man.
Yeah. I will say, though, I did like the new set that they introduced.
Yeah.
And I hope that stays around a bit. So I think that's really good. I enjoyed some of the references to E.T., but when they made the bicycles fly, for me, is when they pushed over the edge. It went too far.
I'm going to say this about Legends and Flash. They really like to make Spielberg references.
And George Lucas.
And they really like to make George Lucas references, and I'm sick of it. It was cute once. This is time 1042. You named your episode Go Home. It's just... The references are so obvious. To me, they're not interesting anymore. And then to tap it so on the nose like that, like, who cares?
Well, see, that's the thing. I was willing to give it to them through most of the episode. Like, giving the alien candy, I'll give it to you. But, like, yeah, when they made the bikes fly, and they had to do the moonshot, that's where I was like, guys, this is too far. This is too far.
I also feel like maybe I don't have a good grasp of what Zari's powers are, but I have no idea how she was able to make them do that.
Telekinesis?
I mean...
They really haven't explained what her powers are.
Yeah, she just kind of touched her amulet and, like, stroked herself a bit, and then they flew. Like, okay, I guess.
All right, so let's move into the rating of this episode. Ashley, based on a scale of 1 to 5 Wave Riders, what would you give Go Home?
I think Phone Home.
Oh, is it Phone Home?
It's because like.
I know, my bad. Best joke of all time with that line is in Airplane 2. At the very beginning of the movie, E.T. picks up the phone and he goes, "Phone home," and they're like, "That will cost you $2 billion," and he says, "F you," and hangs up.
Oh, that is funny. I think Phone Home is deeply flawed. I think the humor borders on 8th grade level. I think it's mostly effective because it gives a character who's kind of dumb a better purpose, and we got to see a Dominator again. I do think it's the best episode of this season, even if it wasn't my favorite, so I guess I'll give it a 4.
Wow, for crapping
but I didn't like it.
How did you crap on it that much and give it a 4?
I'm pretty sure I already rated something this season 3, and if this is gonna be better than them, it's gotta be a 4.
Wow, okay.
How about you? What are you gonna give Phone Home?
I thought this episode was silly, but not stupid. Because remember, we have an episode where we went to the 1950s, and our crew turned into bird creatures. Remember that episode?
I'm never gonna forget.
No, because that is the dumbest legend has ever been. So I always judge it off the bird creatures scale. I thought this episode had some heart. And I thought this episode, it had a lot of heart. And I thought this episode, again, didn't have the team being complete nincompoops. They were actually mostly effective throughout this episode, like except for the exception of taking the Wave Rider. Now that's the kind of incompetence I want to see from this team. Just a little bit of incompetent. I can't even say the word. But this is, to me, the closest Legends of Tomorrow Season 3 has felt to Legends of Tomorrow Season 2, which I think is a stellar season. They found the right rhythm again. This is what I want from Legends of Tomorrow. This is a 4. So, all right, let's go straight into our predictions. Ashley, what do you think is coming for the future of Legends of Tomorrow?
So, we know Martin Stein's leaving the show.
Of course.
I don't know if they've officially...
About the baby. We're going to talk about the baby, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they've officially announced it.
They have officially announced it.
There you go.
We talked about it on the previous DCTV recap.
Look.
Did you forget about that?
Man, it's
Were you
been
here?
Weeks since then. Maybe the better part of
They
a
all
year.
remember it.
Don't tweet me. I don't care. We know Martin Stein's leaving the show.
We do. Victor Garber wants to go back to New York.
Yeah, Jason had a prediction for a long time that his time-displaced daughter was going to replace him because obviously we're not getting rid of Firestorm.
No.
And even though we had the line at the end of this episode, I want to break up Firestorm, that's not how Firestorm works.
Nope.
So that's not going to happen. So we need a surrogate. I don't think anymore it's going to be the daughter, unfortunately, and I really...
Too bad. It should be the daughter.
I really like her. We could use a girl on the show who is A, good actor, or B, interesting. And she's both of those things. It's very like Han Solo naming his son Ben when he has no connection to Ben Kenobi, and neither does Leia. Baby Martin Stein's daughter and her presumable husband, baby boyfriend. I don't know. I don't want to judge. It's very modern time. They don't know who Ronnie Raymond is.
Yep.
So why would they name their child after him?
Ronnie Raymond died before the whole time displacement Lily thing even happened.
Good.
Yeah.
Because he was terrible.
Yeah. Jax is a way better half of Firestorm.
Yeah, the lesser of the Amels.
Yeah.
I'm not sad that he's gone. But so we're going to name this kid Ronnie so that his time-displaced future self can come back and be the other half of Firestorm. That's why. So we can have Jax and Ronnie, or Jason from the comics and Ronnie, two of the most iconic versions of Firestorm, be two young, hot guys. And that'll drive our market. So we're gonna get. That's why he's called Ronnie.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. As soon as you said that prediction, I was like, yep, that's exactly. We're gonna meet.
Yeah.
And that'll explain because he'll still be a Stein.
Exactly.
Why the DNA and why he can absorb the Firestorm matrix.
And who knows? Maybe because of his dad, his grandfather. I'm sorry. Maybe he'll be born with some connection to Jax. I don't know, but it'll make it a lot easier. What do you think is coming down the pipe for Legends?
I think the Dominators are coming back. I think we saw too much of the Dominators. We saw a piece of that Dominator who stared at Rey during the crossover last year. I think the Dominators are not done with Legends of Tomorrow. I think there were too many setups in this episode that we didn't get payoff or that we didn't connect back to the crossover specifically. None of the characters did that, so that tells me that the Dominators are coming back in some shape or fashion. I'm just going to make a prediction that they're going to steal the Wave Rider.
You don't think they're like mid-season or season finale villains?
I don't know where they're coming, but
Okay,
the Dominators are definitely coming back.
Cool.
So go down in the comments and tell us which prediction you think is correct, and click subscribe.
And why not click on one of the videos popping up on the screen? And for more exclusive geeky content, go to patreon.com/Jawiin.
Don't forget to enter our Jupiter Jet contest and help support our comic book. And until then, we'll see you at another review.